We'll do it live!
Fucking thing sucks.
Hello and welcome to the Basement Dwellers podcast. I'm here as always with Pawsey, and today we have an interesting show planned for you. We're going to cover classic rock, Islamic apologists, and a kid in our Christian ethics class named NASCAR, well, codename NASCAR. And so yeah, it should be a fun show, and I guess we'll begin. So we're going to start off the show with something light. So we're going to talk about our top 3 classic rock albums. And we're both big music fans. Pawsey probably more so than I am, but we both love music. And so, yeah, you have the mic.
Yeah, man, totally. So top 3 favorite classic rock albums in no particular order. Let's go Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. That, the graphic on the shirt that you see all the time and no one knows what it actually is? Yeah, it's that album.
You mean the rainbow going through the pyramid?
Yeah, that one.
That Illuminati shirt?
Yeah. Illuminati confirmed. Let's go probably Rush's 2112 because holy fuck, what an album. One song on there is, I think, 20 minutes and 30 seconds long or so. It's amazing. Self-titled.
Aptly named 2120. Yeah.
2112.
2112. What? See,
Damn it, River. And then after that, it's a hard decision, but probably Led Zeppelin 1. I was in between Zeppelin 1 and 4 because they're both incredible albums. So yeah, give those a check. Dark Side of the Moon, 2112, and Led Zeppelin 1. My favorite song off Dark Side of the Moon, that is a hard one because it's in between 3 really, really, really good ones.
Well, I would say with Pink Floyd albums, they have such a flow to them that it's hard to pick any one song because they really go together. Like, for example, one of my favorites is, probably my favorite album of all time is The Wall. And that to me is like one continuous song.
Yeah, and that's how a lot of, their music is, especially out of that, prog rock scene coming out of there. That's a huge thing with, that would be called progressive music, is the concept album theme. And what that is, it's an album, but it's kind of like one huge song. Like, the songs do sound good by themselves, but they're written to coincide very nicely with the rest of the album as a whole.
They were meant to be heard together.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dark Side of the Moon and 2112 is a absolutely perfect example of that, both being, phenomenal. The production on them for the time is amazing. The instrumentation, the writing is absolutely unreal. So that's why it's really hard for me to decide my favorite song off Dark Side of the Moon. I've got to say it's between 3, and those 3 are Time, The Great Gig in the Sky, and what's the other one? Money. All incredible. I'm gonna have to go with The Great Gig in the Sky though, because it's not a common song off that album. Really, it's just pianos, drums, bass, and just this amazing Black Lady voice.
Yeah, it's funny about that song is that's the first Pink Floyd song I ever heard.
Really?
And I was really little and I didn't really get it at the time.
No, and no one would. It's just
it
this beautiful piece of music that holds together so nicely 2 different parts of the album. And honestly, if you want to hear cliche Black Lady jazz vocalist, this is the song.
Probably
man.
The best.
Wow, what a song. It's incredible. It builds up so nicely and it comes down and in different parts, and it's unreal. It's, like I said, it's probably my favorite song. 2112. Okay, well, you know what? There are some great songs off 2112, but it goes to the self-titled, without a doubt. I am a sucker for long songs, 20 minutes long, 40 minutes long, some stuff like that.
Michael Jackson's Thriller?
Yes. I actually am an MJ fan. But
I am too, actually. But
yeah, 2112. I used to know the entire thing on drums just because I loved the song so much. That was, I forget it now. It was back a couple of years ago, but amazing song. And actually, when I went and saw them live, they teased me. That's what they did, because they started playing that, the intro to it. And then they just, well, it's cool that they did it. They would just switch into another part of the song with a, written orchestration to do so cleanly. And so that was awesome. So it was basically like a small amalgamation of the entire song, which was super dope seeing them live because, it's fucking 2112. Like it's the song for me, man, especially off that album. Oh shit, damn it. Okay. So, and the last one, Led Zeppelin one, is, there's so many instant hits off that album. Like, actually, in the summer for a biker gig, a few of us played, the very first song off their very first album, which was actually the first song they ever wrote. Usually that's not the case. Like, the songs aren't placed on the album chronologically, but yeah, like, we played Good Times, Bad Times, and wow, what a song. That's probably it's either that or Black Mountain Slide, or Back Mountain Side, I think, off that album, but incredible. It's not a concept album like the other two, but it is just full of really, really, really solid shit. So that's, that's always really nice. And so, yeah. What are yours, man? What have you got? What you got?
Well, of course, Pink Floyd's The Wall, my favorite album of all time, pretty much hands down.
It's amazing. Did you know, actually, with that album, Roger Waters, the whole story, like, I don't know if you've read up on the whole story behind it or why it's even called The Wall, but on their Dark Side of the Moon tour, they would go to play these long, 10-minute long songs, and there would always be, the kids in the audience, oh, play this song that everyone knew, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And Roger Waters hated audience participation, like absolutely hated it. He openly acclaimed to saying, audience participation in music shouldn't happen, which I disagree with, but whatever. But no, and he was saying, and his famous quote was, the next time we play, we're going to be playing behind a fucking wall.
Yeah.
And then that's why they called it The Wall. And during their concerts in that tour, they would build up this wall. Like, he hired a set crew to build up this physical wall out of whatever between them and the audience. And so it's just really, really neat. Like, fucking arrogant. Very, very neat. But yeah, he was a total prick.
Yeah, you could tell that with a lot of great bands throughout history, and especially bands like, Pink Floyd, who did something different and who knew they were the best, there's, of course, a lot of arrogance that's going to go along with that.
Totally. It's like, any band that takes... And they're a little different because Waters was really the only prick in that band. But yeah, like, no, You're right. Any band that makes it huge, they're no matter...
Metallica.
Yeah. It's fuck. I don't know why everyone thinks I'm just this huge Metallica fan. Like, I don't think I've listened to
It's because,
them.
honestly, the only band that, like, metal-wise that people can think of is usually Metallica.
Well, it's because they're the most famous to ever come about, and
So.
they're huge pricks now.
Just the logo alone is a cultural icon.
Yeah,
Like,
I have to agree with you. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've listened to fucking Metallica since grade, 5, maybe.
But my favorite song off that album, which is a really, again, a hard thing to choose.
Hold up. Shot in the Dark. Comfortably Numb.
Nope. And
Really?
nobody would guess this.
Really?
But
What
it's
is it?
Mother.
Really? No, that's a good song.
Possibly my favorite song ever. In my opinion, the most relaxing song.
Yep.
But yeah, just that song. I adore it. It's great. It's definitely heard it more than any other song on the album.
Yeah, man.
Possibly any other song ever. Yeah, excellent song.
I gotta say, my favorite off the wall is, I don't know, like Another Brick in the Wall, part 1, 2, and 3. Those are cool, but I gotta give it to Comfortably Numb, man. Those are, in that song alone, two of the best guitar solos to ever surface, man. Like, I learned both of them, and I'm just, it's the greatest to just sit there and fucking play it again and again and again over, the chord progression. It's nuts. So yeah, man, what's your next one then?
Moving Pictures by Rush.
Fuck yeah.
Definitely the most famous Rush album, I guess. But,
Absolutely.
I adore Rush, and they're definitely, the main band I listen to, like, having a shitty day or you have to go to work and you have no motivation to do so.
Fucking Rush.
So you listen to some Rush, and then you push the fucking carts at the Safeway.
And his voice just like has a way of doing that. Like
I know.
it's so weird. And they were like, when they were, starting, no, well, not starting, but just kind of in the first 5-10 years, they were outcasted by like everyone. They didn't get a breath. And like critics hated them, hated them, hated them, hated them. Have you ever watched their documentary?
I don't think I have, no.
Rush's documentary. It's called Beyond the Lighted Stage. It's fucking awesome. Check it out. But anyways, yeah, they hated them, and Rush never like thought they were gonna make it anywhere until they brought out 2112. And even though the reviews for it sucked and the critics hated it, they were filling up venues because they had like Rush probably has the most loyal fan base of any band I like in history.
Easily.
Because it's like, they're just those like half outcasted, nerdy fucking guys that, aren't super
Devout Jews.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they all look pretty Jewish in that band. And also they are like the third best-selling band of all time.
Which is nuts.
Weird. Yeah, it's like the Beatles, the Stones, Rush, and then Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Like, it blows my mind. But fuck yeah, man. Fucking Rush. Canadian too.
Yeah, also Canadian. No.
Neil Peart, one of the best drummers in the world. Canadian.
Favorite song off that album. I know this is like, the most famous song you could say of Rush, but Limelight song just gets me going.
I don't think that's their most famous. It's definitely one of them. If anything, I think Tom Sawyer's their most famous song.
Really?
Yeah.
Usually, whenever I bring up Rush, if it's especially somebody our age who doesn't really listen to anything but like Kanye West or some shit like that,
Drake, Drizzle.
Nicki Minaj, but yeah, it's usually Limelight. That's the first song they can think of. Or if you're at like a party or something and you steal the auxiliary chord and you play some Rush, that's the only song people can sing along to.
Yeah, it's cool. That song, Neil Peart wrote all their lyrics and still does write lyrics for it. And the guy's a total introvert, and that song is actually about that. Even though you reach a brink of success, you're still a normal person. Like they're one of the most modest bands ever for their popularity, completely contradicting myself what I said earlier about Metallica. But these guys are like super, super humble. At least it portrays that way. Like I've never met them, but in their concert, in their movies, in everything, they're super, super humble in it. And they're way more famous than a band like Metallica. Third best-selling group in history.
Yeah.
That's fucking nuts.
And then Strange Days by The Doors.
The Doors.
Fucking, honestly, any Doors album you could probably put on that list. They're interchangeable.
Yeah. You know what? I like what I've heard from The Doors, but I've never went and sought them out. And honestly, I kick myself in the ass for it because from what I've heard, it's incredible. Like, it's just jazzy and weird and progressive.
That's what I love about it. It's so psychedelic and awesome, and fucking Morrison is a god.
Yeah,
he's
I
just
agree.
so good.
I agree.
Some of their songs are so fucked too, like Gloria.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's one
Awesome
of their
song,
most. That's one of their most
up.
popular songs.
Yeah.
And the lyrics for it.
I'd like to see Kanye West write a song like Gloria.
I'd like to see Kanye West write one of his own songs.
I'd like to see him write a good song, or play a good song, or be involved in a good song.
Yeah. You know what? Not a fan of the whole movement, that he's involved with. Any of that movement, any of this, like, right for hire kind of bullshit stuff that they pull out twice a year even. Just you notice how it's all singles. Like they don't release conventional albums. It's always like single featuring this person, single featuring Pitbull.
And they all have the same structure.
Yeah. Well,
it's always the same 4 chords. That's it.
I don't. Yeah. I mean, a lot of them are musically very similar, but they're not. Like lots are exactly the same, but not all of them are.
If you look at most pop songs nowadays, there are 4 head writers. I don't remember any of their names, but they write like 90% of what you hear in the top 20.
Yeah, absolutely. Like studio producers, like producers not as in audio engineers, guys that work for the 3 big labels are Sony Music, what's the other one? Warner Bros. Media. And what? God damn it, I can't remember the other one. But anyways, yeah, and what you said is right. They're, 9 out of 10 are all written by one of these producers that are hired by, the record company because, it's a formula that works and it's always made them money. And it's a little sickening that it gets to the point where they don't care what you want to listen to because they're just going to tell you and you're probably going to listen to it anyways.
Yeah.
You as in, just people with no opinion or, who are so incurious about the music they listen to that they just don't give a fuck even what it is in the least. It's just produced garbage, recycled garbage.
Yeah, and my favorite song on that album is "People Are Strange." Again, a song that I adore, and
classic.
It's so strange and weird. But I feel, especially if you're ever feeling, outcasted or just fucking down in the dumps, a weird song to relate to. But it does. It just gets me every time.
Yeah, man. I just love how fucking jazzy they are. I mean,
yeah.
Most progressive bands, they have that element, but the Doors really just bring that through. They're almost, it's like equally rock and like jazz fusion kind of band.
Yeah. And it's the image alone is enough to sell me.
Yeah.
These guys are just such legends, and their personas are just great.
Yeah.
Great personas. And they're rock stars, really.
Yeah, and the Jim Morrison persona is just that, sleazy kind of rock singer and just does whatever the fuck he wants.
Which I adore. I love that image.
Yeah, I agree. Alrighty, so that's that, I guess. So we're going to move over into a little more serious topic, I guess. One thing that's really been pissing me off in the news a lot lately, and this happens every time there's some, Islam extremist, whatever happened, 9/11, ISIS, any kind of bullshit like that. And you always have the Muslim apologists in the news that are, claiming, oh, these aren't real Muslims. These aren't all this shit. And
yeah, it's a Scotsman's fallacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, oh man, it just bothers me because it's like, it just pisses me off. And these are the three main arguments that you hear. You hear that, oh, the terrorists are not of the faith or they are extremists of Islam. Number two is, oh, it's just a few bad apples in the faith that all, that make all Muslim people look bad, I guess. And it also makes you an Islamophobe for calling it out. And also, I love hearing people say that the Quran doesn't literally word by word provoke any kind of violence or these specific actions such as beheading, just killing people because they don't believe. Stuff like that. Yeah, pedophilia. So we're going to reply, Muhammad had what, like a 9-year-old wife?
Well, they were married when they're 9, Pause, but you see, he waited like 2 years and only fucked her when she was 11. So he's a good guy. I'd buy a beer for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't. So we're going to respond to those claims actually one at a time and just really go into depth with them. So response to claim number 1, or that the terrorists are not of the faith and they're just extremists and they have nothing to do with it. And so my response to that is violence and hatred is littered all throughout the Islamic faith, in the Quran, in all their other holy books. And so I've got a graph here to demonstrate that. So according to Pew Research Center and the Washington Post, in Malaysia, 62% of people, not just Muslim, it is a Muslim country, but that doesn't mean that they're all Muslims.
Yeah.
62% believe in the death penalty for people who simply want to leave the faith. Not, even if they're just converting to Christianity, which is common.
And Malaysia isn't even like a fundamentalist Islamic country.
It's not the Iran
very
or the Saudi
progressive.
Arabia.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they've had 2 female heads of state.
Yeah.
But
and so another number for you, going back to a more, repressive Islamic country, Egypt, Middle East, North Africa, or not Middle East, North Africa, it would be. Yes, it would be Middle East, North Africa. Egypt, 86% of people believe that, if someone wants to leave the faith, they are totally subject to capital punishment, being a public beheading. And, it doesn't take me here on a mic fucking saying it to you that that's wrong and fucked up and shouldn't happen. 86%.
Yeah,
Not
and
only
the people who are polled here are mothers, they're fathers, they're school teachers, they're lawyers,
This is commonplace in these countries. 86 isn't just a majority. That is a
super
vast majority.
If you were to win a political election with like anything over like a 55%,
you would
majority,
be in every record
you would be
book.
like a god. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
a solid run is like 51%.
Absolutely. And it's just, oh man. And there's so much more. Like Afghanistan, same thing, 79%. Jordan, 82%. That it's fucking nuts to me, and I will never understand it. But then you do have, your countries that aren't as crazy, like and keep in mind these are all primarily Muslim countries. You have your Indonesia, which is 18%. Albania, 8%. Tunisia, 29%. But keep in mind, these are still significant numbers. Like even if someone in, if there's a poll done in Canada that said, if you leave, I guess Catholicism is probably the primary in Canada.
Yeah, I think it's like 70%.
Yeah. Like if you took a statistic that said, even the lowest number on here, 4% of people, if all of Canada was surveyed and 4% of all Canadians thought that, if you left Roman Catholicism, you were subject to be beheaded publicly in front of everyone. Even that is still, obscenely and inarguably fucked up, that it shouldn't. That's ridiculous. And not to mention that it's the same thing there, but 86% as opposed to 4. 4 seems insignificant as opposed to 86, but when you put it into perspective, they're all significant numbers.
We have around 36 million people. 4% of that is 900,000 people.
Yeah.
That's fucking bananas.
That is almost
insane.
Yeah, like if that many people wanted you dead for, leaving Roman Catholicism, whether you're converting or you're just claiming to not be a believer, it doesn't matter.
And as we talk about this, we aren't even specifically bashing. Well, we are bashing Islam here, but we aren't ignorant to the fact that most religions are just as bad or have been worse in history.
Yeah.
We're not fans of Catholicism at all.
Nope.
We're not, fans of any organized religion, really.
My favorite, when you bring up, Christianity, my favorite are the fucking evangelicals in the United States. The shit they feed their children growing up.
It's honestly child abuse. I know how this is like a big debate amongst liberals and atheists about whether or not like evangelical and fundamentalist Christians are abusing their children with what the fuck they do. But they are. If you're a fucking evangelical, then fuck you. You're a fucking psychopath.
If you want, kind of more of this specifically, go watch Bill Maher has a documentary and it's called Religulous, and it's incredible. It's
fucking great.
He is a comedian, but he portrays these people's thoughts so well. Like, it's like, he'll say something and sometimes they just got caught like, oh shit, I wasn't supposed to speak the truth or what I actually think.
Or how you can just lead them into saying something that they will
something
then immediately
ridiculous.
Regret. And honestly, if your whole worldview can be challenged by some idiot who hasn't done anything at all, but he has a basic understanding of how the fucking world works, anybody can challenge these people and win.
Yeah.
Their worldview is so flawed, and they get bashed every time you see a debate. Anytime you see any sort of argument, they lose. They never ever win. But it's like Ken Ham said in that Bill Nye debate.
An example of that would be the Ken Ham Bill Nye debate, which happened in 2014.
Yeah, in February of last year.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. If you want to watch, the classic science versus, you can call it religion, but I guess we'll say science versus creationism. If you want to see that in the flesh, watch this debate, because it's masterful. The way Bill Nye will just obliterate someone like Ken Ham, who is a very respected person by a lot of said evangelicals in the United States. It's nuts. Like, he's built a fucking Noah's Ark to scale replica, and he's, he built a museum that is replicas housed in,
and that people take their fucking children to.
Yeah, and it's like, in this museum he has dinosaurs with saddles on them, because it's supposed to portray that humans and dinosaurs coexisted.
It's like what, the Genesis Museum or something like that. They have Bible quotes all over the walls. It's like a popular museum in Kentucky.
Yeah,
like people go. That's fucking nuts.
It is. And it's the whole creationist thing is their young earth theory, that the earth is only 10,000 years old, and it's just Bill Nye time and time again, every time Ken Ham says something that it isn't, Bill Nye will turn it around and show him, not in a disrespectful way.
We simply disagree on the facts.
Yeah, no, that's what he says. He'll present a few questions, and not, invariably, Ken Ham will agree and say, yes, that's right, I agree with that. And then he'll, twist what he said, but not twist in a manipulative way, but just give back to him what he said. And then Ken Ham just won't agree because he realizes he contradicted himself like a fucking idiot. And he'll just say, yeah, then we don't agree on the facts. And it's as simple as that.
Bill Nye actually gets Ham to admit that there is nothing he could say, no facts, no argument, nothing he could do to get Ham to steer from his point. And that is the biggest fucking win on Bill Nye's part, because all that proves is that Ken Ham is coming to this place to try and debate something, to try and put his ideas forward, when he won't even accept something else, even if he loses. And that's the fundamental difference between science and religion. It's that one of them will change with the facts. One of them will evolve. One of these will, it will take in new information and make a worldview. Well, not even a worldview, but it'll design itself to fit the facts and the world around it. Religion, however, will stay the same, and it'll just get worse and worse, or it'll just fade away.
Yeah. And what you just said, a lot of people might disagree with, and I can see why they would disagree, that it always stays the same, because religion does evolve, but how it evolves is in the most ever receding way. You have a lot of more liberal Christian, or not even Christians, liberal theists.
That's what I mean between when I say it either gets worse or it fades away.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like most Christians, not much of a problem anymore. Roman Catholics, they're committing genocides or causing crusades anymore. No. Do you know why? It's because most Catholics aren't really that Catholic. They don't listen to the Pope and say, oh, Pope wants me to fucking, I don't know, dye my hair blonde.
Except for when he says something about evolution and the Big Bang. Then they really listen to him, and they just think they're chewing him out and doing the world a service.
But no, but because honestly, most Catholics are relatively secular.
Yep.
Most Christians, relatively secular.
But the problem with that is that though they are secular, they're so closeted with it.
I know, and
for
that's
a long
the issue.
time, I'll openly admit I was a total closet atheist. And it's really, something it's worth coming out about for that short time where people think, oh yeah, you think you know everything. It's like, I really don't. I'm just not claiming to.
It's
and I
literally
see that as
the opposite
fundamental
of
difference.
saying that you know everything.
Absolutely.
It's saying you're saying I do not know something. That's all. Atheism isn't a belief. It's a lack of a belief.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Or even simpler, a lack of a claim.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these people will claim to, know how the fucking world works. Or my favorite is when...
I know the mind of God.
Yeah, that is probably my favorite. When they know the mind of their God, that they're indifferent about whether it actually fucking exists or not. I love that. It's like, oh, well, God would want you to do this. It's really, oh yeah, I would love to know where you're getting that
Your
from.
interpretation of this God, of the thousands of gods, and whether or not any of them exist, which there really isn't any proof for, your interpretation is correct.
No. There's not any proof for it.
There is none.
There's
at all.
not any evidence for it to begin with.
Yeah.
There's not even any evidence to lead you to begin to come to that proof.
Honestly, if you're an insane person and you said, I don't know, Napoleon tells me, I think somebody else has made this point before, but I'm going to make it again. If you were a crazy person living on the street and you said you were Napoleon right now, everyone would think you're fucking nuts. However, if 100,000 people thought they were Napoleon and they told all of their children that they were also Napoleon, everyone would think they're fucking Napoleon. And if you challenge that belief, then they're just gonna
off with your
disagree
fucking
with
head. If you challenge it, you are dead. No questions asked, and I'm not even gonna ask you if you even take that claim back. I'm just gonna fucking kill you. Because, you know what? You're Napoleon because I said so. And there's the flying spaghetti monster out there to prove it.
Yeah.
And the teapot floating around the earth that, no one can disprove.
Yeah, it's like I can fly when no one's looking.
Yeah.
You can say anything, and you'll be looked at as crazy.
Yeah.
whoever, if you get enough people to say it and they tell their kids, eventually it won't be crazy anymore. It'll be a religion.
Or as crazy, and it just
Yeah.
takes the few people to still see that. It's really simple. Like, I can say that, I can't disprove that there's a fucking unicorn standing behind me right now, and whenever I turn around to look at it, it disappears into thin air.
Yeah.
No one can disprove that. It's just there's no evidence to suggest it, so why would I believe it? It's that simple. I'm not claiming to know how everything works. Like River said, it's the opposite. I'm claiming to not know how everything works, and I'm seeking to learn how it actually does on the foundation of science, logical reasoning, etc. It's really just, it's that simple. It really is. So just quick note here. If you are a closet atheist and you are listening to this podcast,
It's imperative you come out.
out about it, because the numbers need to rise. And
I honestly think they're a lot higher. Me
Absolutely.
and Pawsey here both attend a Catholic school, and we are in the enriched Catholic class in our school.
Yep.
Like, honestly, about 40% of that class is either atheist or pretty much
you
atheist.
and you know what? Even if they're not atheists, they're at least secular.
And their belief in God is less organized. It's more that pet belief. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
you just keep it there so no one thinks you're an asshole.
it's their own version of a God.
Absolutely. Also, so let's get back to the content here.
Yeah.
So the second argument that we hear often from Islam apologists is that, it's just a few bad apples, and that make, a negative portrayal for everyone in the faith. And here's my question to kind of refute that. What's a few bad apples out of 1.2 to 1.5 billion people? Is a few bad apples 0.5%? Because even if it is, that is a huge number.
Yeah, and we aren't saying there aren't a shit ton of Christian fundamentalists.
Oh, absolutely.
But
no. This goes for everyone.
But honestly,
the Christians just
who's-
aren't in the news
yeah.
right now.
And honestly, though, the bigger issue, though, is Islamic terror right now.
Absolutely.
Christianity's had its time, and it's getting less and less serious. But Islam right now is just rising. Well, and that's more because it is, of course, a young religion. Like, if you look at where Christianity was by the time it was this old, like, Islam's 1,300 years? So, when, in the 1600s, for example, Christians were killing everybody. But that's past, and Islam is still a young religion, and so they're acting as a young religion would. But this whole a few bad apples argument, no smart person is saying all Muslims are terrorists.
No one is claiming that it's a vast majority.
I used to be one of those people who
even.
every time I would criticize Islam, I would state that. I don't anymore, because it totally detracts from the conversation.
Absolutely. It's not, I don't think I've ever... A lot of these apologists are saying, "Oh yeah, well, it's not all of the Muslims. It's not
No
all."
one's
of
saying
no
that.
one
There
is
are
claiming
plenty of
that.
really wonderful Muslim people. The majority of Muslims are wonderful people, I would say.
Yep.
But the belief, if you take it literally, which honestly, I don't see how you can't. If you're actually gonna
that's
believe in
the
something,
thing. It's not,
then it's
some
a terrible,
extreme,
poisonous, toxic belief system.
It's not
just
some
as Christianity
warped.
is, but
It's not some extreme, far out there, warped point of view.
Yeah.
They are just taking this literally. It's like the young Earth believers that in all the evangelicals in the States go trace the names in the Bible, and it brings them to 6,000 years. That's how old they think the Earth is. That's not extreme. It's just literal and very fundamental. And that is exactly what these people are. It's just, their book happens to be a lot more violent in its
and that's
literacy,
honestly because it has the Christian books as well as a brand new book of murder and terror.
Yeah, this extreme or just very literal and fundamentalist view on Islam and the Quran is known as that of a jihadist.
Yeah.
So basically, the definition for what a jihadist is a jihadist is someone who is for the inflicting of destruction and war on any infidel, apostate, or simply unbeliever. So a little bit of, back facts there. An infidel, when you hear that word, it's referencing in the Quran multiple times people who aren't of the Muslim faith are
Yeah.
referred to as infidels, whether they're just non-believers, Christians, Jews, it doesn't matter. They're just called infidels. And an apostate is someone who opposes the faith, actively opposes it. And, it's not hard to figure
it's
out.
somebody who comes out of the faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to figure out what an unbeliever is. And so it's really just that. The jihad in the Muslim faith, they're just literalists.
Yeah. And if you were to criticize something, I don't know why Islam is, it's such a liberal thing now to not criticize Islam, but you have to. You really have to. We live in an ever-evolving world, and the only way to get rid of extremism is to criticize it
And criticism
and mock it.
Yeah,
That's
ridicule.
the most important thing. The best thing the terrorist who attacked Charlie Hebdo did was, Charlie Hebdo was this cool little liberal magazine in France. Now it's everywhere, all over Twitter. Everywhere you go on the internet, you see Charlie Hebdo comics. That's great. They made it 1 million times more popular by fucking murdering 12 people. And the best way to hurt these Islamophobes, or not Islamophobes, these Islamic terrorists, is to mock them. It's
And
not to bomb
even
them,
not
it's
even
to mock them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not even to even hurt them even. It's just to expose their fucking craziness.
Exactly.
Ridicule is ridicule and criticism is the best way for a society or a philosophy or really anything to evolve. That is how the scientific method works. Someone makes a theory or a proposition, and these people will just sit there and pick it apart.
Yeah.
And if they can't, then it stands. And
It's
if
the
they,
most basic version of social memeing.
absolutely
Back before it became, like an internet thing, memes,
yeah.
as Richard Dawkins coined the term, are just how society evolves through things that catch on. It's social evolution. And if you continually make something look fucking stupid, it's going to evolve into a concept that everybody thinks is fucking stupid.
Actually, River, there's no evidence to prove that evolution happened.
Oh, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Evolution? Nah.
No cetaceans.
I didn't come from no monkey.
You calling me an animal? Yes, I am.
You're calling my kids apes?
You're a fucking primate. Get over it. But yeah, I mean, evolution, I think, the Pope said it happened, but it didn't. I said so. And I mean, who's the Pope, right? He can't be better than me.
It wasn't even in the Bible.
No, it wasn't.
Also,
wasn't even in the fucking
guys,
Bible.
Catholics, not Christian.
No,
Fun fact.
no, that's another fun one. The whole denial of Catholics being
The
Christians.
biggest version of
It's
Christianity.
like, no, your father branch isn't even human. That's the equivalent.
Yeah.
So, the thing that made us isn't really part of us, if that makes sense. Okay, so we'll move on to the third point of the Islamic apologist claims. The Quran doesn't provoke these actions. Alrighty.
Yeah, it does.
The
Yeah, it fucking does. And yeah, there are some nice segments of the Quran. And actually, the Quran has some beautifully written segments if you actually read it. Like some absolutely...
I haven't yet. I plan to.
I haven't read the entire thing yet, but I've read a large portion of it. Some beautiful, beautiful segments in the Quran. But there's some fucking evil shit in there.
Yeah, and what we did was we made this really, really, really simple for you guys, and we simply found 3 verses of the Quran that no matter what way you look at it, they are still violent, they're still savage, and they're still every bit, claiming that you should be committing acts like, that have been committed and provoking war on unbelievers.
And before we read those, I'm going to read a verse from the Bible, just so that, you see that the Christian Bible, most people don't know this, is actually the foundation for, the Quran. And all these things are still canon to the Islamic faith.
Yeah, and you should know that,
and a lot of people are actually ignorant of that. It really frustrates me.
Judaism, Islam, and Christianity all stem from the Old Testament. They're
this
all
is just
Abrahamic
so,
faith.
you see that the Old Testament has this shit too.
Oh, totally.
For example, kill homosexuals. If a man lies with a man as with a woman, both of them shall be put to death for their abominable act. They have forfeited their lives. That is Leviticus 20:13.
Don't worry, we'll bring up the whole gay debate in our next conversation here, coming up about He who is known as NASCAR.
NASCAR. Vroom vroom.
His name shall not be revealed. But anyways, the answer to number 3, very simple. Quran 2:191 to 193. And kill them wherever you find them, and turn them out from where they have turned you out. Disbelief is worse than killing. Well, I don't know in how many societies I would be called a worse than a murderer for disbelieving, but I guess an Islamic society would be one of those.
Yeah, that I feel like they have, their society game is on point with that shit.
Yeah, society game strong. No, that's just, see, what bothers me about that is that it
What
is...
if you're fucking wrong?
Well, yeah, and it's just such an arbitrary claim. Like, disbelieving is worse than killing. It's like, what makes you think that?
Yeah.
You're saying it, but what reasoning are you getting? It doesn't even have to be rational or logical. I just want to frankly know what the fuck is going on in your head if you're going to make a claim like that, because it's obscene.
Yeah, it's utterly fucked, and honestly, anybody who can devote their lives to a book with that verse in it, and that verse is part of your worldview, it's a part of how you think the fucking universe was created, is some greasy fucking fuck up in space decided to fucking build a whole cosmos and universe around a fucking worldview and book with that shit in it.
Also, cosmos is like a swear word to fucking, like, fundamentalist believers. Like,
Yeah.
if you say cosmos to a creationist, they'll just look at you like, you threaten to kill them or something. Just, oh, man. It's like cosmos, and they'll just fucking, like, they'll shoot you a
Or
fucking
if you
glare.
bring up Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil
in
deGrasse
general.
Tyson, or not even like, it's like him, Carl Sagan. If you bring up the fact that Albert Einstein was, in fact, not at all
A Christian.
religious or
that the
Christian.
Constitution has nothing to do with Christianity. It's insane.
Yeah, I agree. Okay,
Or
but
that
anyways,
the founding fathers weren't Christian.
yeah, because like, some of them might have been, but almost
honestly-
all of them openly identified as atheist or agnostic at the very
Or
least.
deist.
Or deist, yes. And you know what? I don't think the United States would have survived until now if the Constitution wasn't written on secular principles, because like, look what's happening in, Iran, Saudi Arabia. They're just fascist dictatorships, and they're nuts. Like, what's going on is crazy. And you know what? It's not hard to think that the United States would have become that if it was, written upon all these Christian, like,
there's a
things.
reason that there's never been a free society that was super hyper religious. I mean, you think of, besides like, I don't know, ancient Greece, which wasn't even that free really, but you look at, I don't know, France, like French Revolution, American Revolution,
Yeah.
both of which threw out the clergy. The French Revolution didn't really work very well, but both of them, the basic principle was, you can't religion itself very much promotes dictatorship and a blind desire to follow authority. And so without religion, that natural impulse is not entirely, but it's definitely pushed aside more. I mean, if you're already told from birth that there's a certain being in the sky that you have to spend all your time worshiping and loving and listening to, and if you don't, then you're going to go to hell, or whatever the hell your religion dictates, then it's going to be much easier for you to follow some fucking, I don't know, a king or a monarch or whatever the hell your society does.
And
follows.
I really think
Or
that
dictator.
that's the evil of it. It's
Exactly.
not so much even the claims that it makes, but it just
The mindset
kills-
it brings to people.
yeah, and it
And the
kills
closed-mindedness.
that's exactly what it does. It just kills the thought of, challenging what's going on. It's like, nope, I'm this benign power that, can't be questioned. And again, back to what River and I were saying earlier, that's why it is important to see the flaws in Islam and make it public, because it's not benign. It can be, this is the only way that societies progress. And you know what? History shows that time and time again. In 100 years, it would surprise me if there were any not secular countries that were complete, like, shitholes.
Look at the best countries in the world, all of which heavily secular.
Best isn't a fair word to use.
I would say
Progressives
the most all the countries with the highest quality of life ratings
yeah.
are pretty much always
Voted by
Scandin-
the people, by
voted
the way.
by the people of all these countries, and with the least political corruption, with the most democratic systems, always pretty much in Scandinavia. And Scandinavia is the least religious area in the entire world, simply put.
Wait, River, did you say Democrat?
I did say Democrat.
Fuck you. That's what you get for saying Democrat.
I don't like either parties in the States, but...
Nope, me neither, but you still said Democrat. That means you're no goddamn Republican.
Rand Paul 2016.
Okay, and so we'll go in,
Just read the next two.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Because we're talking a lot.
So, Quran 3, 151. Soon shall we cast terror into the hearts of the unbelievers, for that they joined companions with Allah, for which he had sent no authority. They want to cast terror. Yeah, and that's quoting. That's totally quoting. That is not paraphrasing. Cast terror into the hearts of the unbelievers. I don't know what kind of fucking witchcraft they need to cast terror into my heart. Not into my mind, not into my consciousness, not into anything I'm thinking about, but specifically my heart. You know what? I mean, it's pretty effective organ. It's pretty necessary. You know, there's been replacements. I could do that.
I could have gotten a better one.
If the Muslims, cast terror into my heart and make it black or something, I'll just go get a transplant.
That's pretty metal, actually. I keep it.
I'd fucking keep it. Okay, next Quran passage. I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve. Therefore, strike off their heads and strike off every fingertip of them.
Charming.
I don't think there's any way you could not take this literally. That is like...
Yeah, there's not much interpretation there.
You would have to jump through a lot of fucking hoops to take this any way but completely literally. I mean, I don't see how, what fucking way you can contort this to make it so that it's not completely literal.
And it's kind of hard to jump through hoops without any fucking fingertips.
Yeah,